right, good afternoon. So we come to Techonomy to talk about technology and talk about the role and the impact it plays in our lives and in society. And so we're going to talk about that around voice technology today. But there's also a lot of hype around voice technology. We read articles about how Alexa is going to be our doctor and know how we're feeling, and yet on a daily basis, our interaction with voice is usually asking for the weather or setting a timer that works 50% of the time. And so today I'm going to talk about how to think about the impact that voice technology is going to have on society and on pretty much everything that we've been talking about this conference, whether it's self-driving cars, whether it's turbine maintenance. But we're going to also try and cut through the hype. And this is why it's important. Because voice is huge. So if you rattle off the numbers, even with these limited use cases, 1 in 4 US adults lives in a house that has a smart speaker. There's 2.5 billion voice assistant-enabled devices already in the world. That's going to be like 8 billion by 2023. And Adobe put out a study recently that was of 1,000 different voice users. And 97% of them said that they want more voice technology in their life, and that voice technology improves the quality of their life, which is kind of mind-boggling. So it's really important to think about voice, but it's also important to kind of define voice. And when we talk about voice technology, what is voice? So voice is not Alexa. Voice is not AI. It's a part of it in certain experiences. But at Adobe, we think of voice as a form of interaction. And so that includes voice input as part of any digital experience. And maybe it has a screen, and maybe it doesn't have a screen. And then we think of speech as part of output, and we think of audio as part of output. So maybe it's a verbal confirmation. Maybe it's an audio chime that signals that. But also thinking about a voice-first world and how people interact with information. So even when you think about what's happening in the podcast world and the explosion of audio content, in a voice-first world, that kind of content is going to become much more important. It's going to become part of the enterprise, and it's going to become part of education. And so there's really 3 major areas of impact to think about why voice is important and what voice will mean for all of this. And the first involves evolving out of conversational interfaces. So for the most part, there's been kind of the new renaissance of voice that started in 2015. It was really driven by deep learning's introduction in 2011, 2012, and speech recognition getting so much better. But all of these experiences, for the most part, are being delivered through the metaphor of having a conversation with a person. And so this is a design approach that we call skeuomorphism. And almost every new interface uses the simulation of some real-world experience or metaphor in order to help onboard people into those experiences. And so when we got the graphic user interface, all of that was modeled after the desktop, and then when iOS came out, it was green felt for the games and the legal yellow pad for notes. But as we evolve out of this, there's going to be a lot of other ways to optimize voice interfaces for the context that they're used in. So when you think of a trading floor has tons of voice commands, it's domain specific, and it's how people interact, and it's optimized for efficiency. So there'll be a lot of opportunity for us to actually build experiences that aren't conversational, that are designed for the job to be done, and that will get out of this conversational paradigm. Second to think about is the next billion users of mobile. These users are going to be driven by voice and images. They're already sending messages, voice messages through WhatsApp. In India, there's an app called Babajob, where people can go find jobs to be a gardener, to be a delivery person, kind of jobs that pay under $200 a month. But the people that apply for those jobs tend to have a poor form of literacy. And so voice is an opportunity for them to interact with that experience and find the jobs that are part of it without needing to go through the visual interfaces that we're mostly familiar with. And the last is really transforming the world of accessibility. Too often, accessibility is thought as an afterthought in the design process. And so we think of how do you use assistive devices to interact with different digital experiences. But really, voice has an opportunity to create native experiences, so those with visual impairment don't need to use a screen reader that's reading back a visual interface, but an experience that was meant to be interacted in voice. Recently, Apple introduced voiceover control into both macOS and iOS, which lets anybody interact with any piece of software that sits on a Mac completely through voice. I'm going to leave you with this last thought. So when we talk about voice, we tend to always make these comparisons to the mobile revolution. Mary Meeker has her charts that show the sales of the iPhone compared to the sales of Amazon Alexa devices. But the mobile revolution didn't start with the iPhone. The mobile revolution took a really long time. And you kind of don't really know where you are in a massive shift as it's happening. There was a time that we thought that the BlackBerry was the perfect form of mobile computing. And then the iPhone came out. And it turned out it wasn't. And so the iPhone wasn't the start of the mobile revolution. It was the inflection point. And so maybe we're at the iPhone stage, but maybe we're already at the BlackBerry stage. Or maybe we're actually not even at the BlackBerry stage yet. Because voice is going to be this opportunity to not only change how we interact with technology, but who can interact with technology. And voice promises the answer that it can be